So, as we enter prompt 7, I want to let you know something here. What we're going to be doing today is I'm going to give you an overview of everything that we've done. And I'm going to draw a chart for you just to show you when to do what. Notice this guy's right here scratching his head with like multiple approaches. Basically, he sees this problem like, okay, what am I going to do now, right? And a lot of you, I would say, that you are in that situation where you don't know where to start. Yeah. But actually, as a matter of fact, we always have a starting point for any problem that I assign you. And so let's take a look at this triangle closely. As it is for any problem here, if I ask you to factor, what would be the first thing that you do? Remember, always go back to the first lesson that we learned. What did we learn on the very first day of this lesson? Yes. GCF. And that's exactly the first thing you're going to do. For every single one. You say, well, is there a GCF that I can actually take out? Yes. If there is, I'm going to take it out. So, tell me, what is the GCF? 6. Okay, now for those of you like, I don't know, 6. Can we start small, like 2? And then make a ladder. And then make a ladder for it. Yes. So don't forget the ladder approach. We can certainly use the ladder if you don't remember. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you then. Once again, that's a quick review. That, hey, I'm going to go ahead and use 2 for that one. If I use 2, what am I going to have? 16 r to the 4th. 24 r cubed.
And then
9 r squared, right? Okay. Now, for those of you who said 6 earlier, or 3, in this case, is there anything I can take out? 3? Look at this.
No.
Is 16 divisible by 3?
4.
Is 4 divisible by 9? So, is there any other number that I can actually take out? Huh? No, I'm saying number. Is there any other number I can take out? 2.
No.
2? Is 9 divisible by 2?
3.
You gotta ask yourself that question.
3.
3. Is 16 divisible by 3?
R.
So wait. We're still on numbers.
Can't do numbers.
So okay, none. 1. So 1 means I'm done with numbers, right? Let's move on to the next variable here. How many r's can I take out? 2. 2 r's. If I take out 2r, what am I going to have left inside?
16r squared, 24r plus 9.
R what?
9.
Okay, plus 9, right? And of course, on the outside is my GCF, which is what? 2r squared. I will definitely put that outside of parentheses. Now, even at this stage, you're like, am I done? No, I just merely took out the GCF, right? I go back here and take a look at my triangle inside of... Ooh.
Oh, why'd you do that?
Oh, I just did that, didn't I? It's okay.
Do it again, do it again.
No, we took out the r squared too, so I can still do it. Here it is. We got what? 16r squared minus 24r plus 9. That's easy. Okay, now, go back to this again. This is a trinomial. A lot of you would start saying, let's do Xbox on this thing, right? Yeah. But think about this. If you take 16 times 9, it's going to be somewhat of a big number. Not that it can't be done, but it's going to take you a while. So instead of looking directly to Xbox, you should start looking into, wait, what did we learn yesterday that has to do with... Has to do with what yesterday? Perfect square.
Perfect square.
See it? So looking at that first to see if we can find a perfect square or not. Well, first of all, is 16r squared? Can that be written as a perfect square?
Yes.
What is it?
4.
4? R. Remember that?
Yes.
And what about the 9? 3 squared. Right? And how do we test it to verify that this is actually going to work? Okay. So we multiply like that. That will give us 12r, right? Yes. And what do we do after we multiply? We double that. What would that give us? 24r. And there it is. We know that we have a match. Okay, so once we have that figured out, we can just go and start writing into our 2 factors. And what do we put in here? 4r. Here's the 3, right? But here's the thing. What sign do we put in between?
Subtract, minus, plus.
Minus,
plus.
and plus. Think about this. If you have an opposite sign, will the middle term exist? No. So if this exists, it means they must be the same sign. If they are the same sign, what signs will we choose here? Minus. There it is. For that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we have that factor. We can now bring down our GCF, and that will show us a completely factor problem. Okay? You get the idea? Yeah. All right. So as we go into the chart here, I really want you to be very careful when you write this down. Okay? I'm going to go and color code it as well, but I want you to have this in your notebook, and please study this carefully. Look at it every day if you have to. Here's the title of this chart: How to Factor. Okay? So I'm going to start off with something that you need to look at. When you look at factoring, you want to start looking at the orderness of the terms. I'm talking about degree. We want to make sure that the degrees are hopefully, in some kind of order. Now, what do I mean by that? In order.
It could be like
Descending or ascending, right? But typically, if I'm going to write something like this, for example, x fifth plus 2x squared plus 2x7. You know that it's out of order right away, right?
Descending.
Okay, so you have to make sure you put it in order before you even start anything else. So if it's out of order, just switch it around. Make sure it's in order, either in ascending or descending. Okay, so that's the orderness does count for this kind of thing. Next thing now, I'm going to start looking at, first of all, am I going to have just two-term? Is it a two-term deal? Or is it a three-term deal? So that means we're talking about a binomial, a trinomial, and of course, the other one we want to look at is a four-term. So notice I'm making branches for you so that when you look at your problem, say, wait, is it 2, 3, or 4? So go to the right branch and process it at each step of the way. Okay? Now let's start with the four term. We know that when we have four terms, what can we do right away?
Box.
The box. But even before the box, you need to look at GCF. Remember? This is what the first thing we learn is, can we make it smaller? So for every single one here, you would say, is there a GCF that I can take out? If there is a GCF, yeah, you take that GCF out. And that's the first step. After deciding, after you know that they're in order, and that you know that it's either 2 or 3 or 4, you start looking at the GCF right away. Okay, now let's go back to four term. Once we have the GCF taken out, then I can do a box on it. Okay, wait, I need to draw a box because it is a box. There. Makes sense, right? So four terms, usually the easiest to recognize. You just have to put it in a box and do it. But here's one extra step that you might actually forget at the end. Just to check it again. Why? To see if everything is factored completely. Maybe I should ask this question, is everything factored? Completely. That's the question you should ask for every single problem. Did I factor everything completely? I'll show you several cases where that will happen. Okay, you thought you factored, but it's not completely factored, therefore it's not a complete answer. So, at least with four term, it's easy to look at. Okay? Now, take a look at two term again. Two term, what did we discover yesterday about two terms? What did we learn?
Make it into 3.
Well, instead of doing that, did we recognize something else? Perfect square. We call that what? Dots. Difference of two squares. And remember, for difference of two squares, it's in this format, isn't it?
Yes.
A squared minus b squared. So two perfect square term with a minus sign in between. And if you break that or factor it, you end up with a minus b, a plus b. Remember that one? This is your dots. That's how we factor. We recognize that they are perfect square. Then I can break it down. These are the factors of perfect square. Okay? But they must have this format. A squared minus b squared. Because they must have perfect square for both terms. And it must have a minus in between. That's what we call dots. Difference of two squares. And even after you're done with this, you still have to ask, Is everything completely factored? Still, that same questions like every single other problem. Did I factor everything completely? So, for 2 term and 3 terms, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I hope that you see that. Okay? Now, with the 3 terms now, okay, I'm going to have to make room for this. So, did you get your 4 and 2 terms down?
Yes.
Okay, if you got it, can I erase it so I can make room for 3 terms?
Yeah.
Okay, so, of course, everything will be here for you if you need to see it again. But let's focus on 3 terms right now.
PST.
First of all, for 3 terms, after checking the GCF, you are right. Check for PST. Because, once again, we want to look for patterns first. Why do we look for certain patterns? Because if we see certain patterns, we can easily factor. So for PST, I'm talking about, is this in this format of, look at this one. If it's in this format right here, remember, what is it? A plus format or a minus plus format. Remember, we cannot allow to have any other formats. So for this one right here, we can either see it's written like this, or it's going to be written like this. Remember, they're both perfect square, the first and the last, and the middle is by taking the 2 factor, multiplying double. That's why you see a 2 here. So it's just kind of remind you that, yes, to test out the middle term, you do have to multiply and double to test it. And when you factor it, remember you get, if they're both pluses, you will see A plus B, A plus B. That's how you factor. And for minus, you have A minus B, A minus B. And yes, you can also write it in a short form of A plus B squared. And this is A minus B squared. Okay, let me kind of zoom it in for you to show you. Okay, there. You see it? Question on that. Okay, so it's just some of the formats that you want to recognize. In case it is a PST. What if it's not a PST? Xbox it. Very good. If it's not a PST, then you go to the other branch and say, well, I can certainly do an Xbox on that thing. Or sometimes just X if it's a short form. But hey, Xbox seems to be the safest way to go. Okay? See it? So if it's not a PST, branch over and just do an Xbox, meaning you convert it back to 4 terms using X, and then do the blocks on it. And for those of you who don't remember the X, what the X is all about, remember? X means the product on top and sum on the bottom, right? And of course you have your 2 factors here. So, just a quick reminder of that. Any questions so far? So this is just for 3 terms. What would be the last questions for this branch? Is everything factor? Just like the other 2 branches. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of branch it in here. So the last question for this one would be, is everything factor? If it's not, you have to go back and do it again. Okay, so it's a cycle. Okay. Huh? It is. Ooh, I should have done this yesterday. Okay. And it's pink. Ooh. Wow. Okay, do you see that? So this chart you definitely want to use and definitely refer back from time to time. So here's the first one that I want to show you. Look at this one right here. First of all, notice that it is in order. Whether you look at X or A is 3 and 1. If it's X, is in ascending. If it's A, it's in descending. So it is somewhat in order, right? So it's fine. Then you look for what right away? Okay, first of all, we identify as a 2-term, 3-term, or 4-term. So we know it's a 2-term. So it's 2-term, we look for what after we identify as 2-term?
Dots.
No, not that. GCF. Always check for that. Is there a GCF here?
No. I just said that. But I said on a long term.
A and X. See it? Every time. We got to check for that. Check for GCF. So now that we take out AX, what do we have left inside? What do we have left?
A squared.
A squared
Minus
Minus 9x.
minus X squared. You see that? Okay, after GCF, now what? No, we're still doing two terms, right? Still doing the two-term branch. So you're gonna stick with that. So dots. Okay, is this a perfect square? If it is, can you write it as a square term? Yeah, what is gonna be inside? A. What over here?
3.
You see it? Okay, now that we have it, all you have to do is expand it. How do we write it? A plus 3x, A minus 3x. And that's what dots is. Difference of two squares. Okay? And don't forget your GCF you took outside, AX. And oh, by the way, I shouldn't circle it yet because I should check. Wait, is it completed factor? Yes. Is this a completed factor? Yes. Everything completed factor, I'm done. And that's how I box my problem say I am now completely finished. Any questions so far? So we just do a quick review of what we learned. Any question on that? Okay. All right. Check this one out. What do you notice right away? 4 terms. So at least you kind of look at that column only about 4 terms. Is everything seems to be in order?
Yeah.
Yes. A3, A2, A, none. B3, B2, B, it's somewhat in order. So it's good. Okay? And now, but technically speaking with 4 terms, because you can you can do switching inside the box. Sometimes even if it's not in order, you're still okay with that if you're going to be doing a box. But we got that. Is there any GCF?
No.
What do you think, Isaiah? A? Okay, let me ask you. If you say A, that means I expect to have an A here too. Do I see an A?
No.
If you take out GCF, that means every single term must have that term in there. That whatever it is that you want to take out. Okay? In this case, there's no A either because there's no A here. If you want to take out B, there's no B here for you to take out. So you can't do it. So here's the box. We tried GCF, didn't work, so I'm just going to go through the box. Here's A squared B. Here is negative AB squared. Here's negative B cubed. Okay, now what? And please, when you copy down your terms, check the variable and check the power. So often I see people copying down something and it's like incorrect. No wonder why you get the wrong answers, right? What can I take out for my first term, first row here? A squared. Second one. Negative B squared. Good. First negative, I have to take it out. Next one. A. This? B. Okay, so I can put together now. Watch what happened. Here are my 2 factors. A squared minus B squared. A plus B, right? So I'm like, la-di-da, I'm done, right? But remember that last question I asked? Is everything completely factored?
No.
Well, if you look right here, I'm like, okay, that's definitely completely factored. It's nothing I can do, but as I go over here and look at this A squared minus B squared, it's a binomial and it is a dots. Look at this. Is it a perfect square? Is it a perfect square? And there's a minus in between. Is it a dots? So, because you ask yourself that question, is it completely factored? And you're telling me right now that it's not completely factored, then you have to go back and factor this again. How do we factor this A squared minus B squared? Very good, because this is simple enough. Remember, we can write it as A minus B, A plus B. You see it? And I can just bring that down. Here's A plus B. If you want to write it in short form, it's going to look like this. There. Either one's fine. But look at it. I use dot to factor out the A minus B and A plus B from A squared minus B squared. Because you recognize this to be a perfect square, and there's a minus in between. So it's dots. Right? So you got to be careful. Always ask yourself the questions, am I completely done? If you have doubts, go back to your chart and look at it. So review your chart constantly, guys. Very important. Any question on this problem? Is it simple enough, in a sense? I mean, this is everything we've learned and prepared for. Check this one out. Is it in order?
No.
No. See that? The first thing you see is, that's a 3, that's a 1, that's a 2. Not in any kind of order. So what do you do?
Switch it.
Okay, let's switch it. Here's a 9x cubed. Here is a 63x squared. And here's 108x, right? 3, 2, 1. Now it's in order, right?
Yes.
Then after we order the terms, what do we look for again?
GCF.
GCF. What's the GCF?
9.
9. Just 9? X. There's an X for each one, so I know I can at least take out 1 X there. and there's 9. So certainly, what do I have left inside?
X
X squared plus 7x plus 12. Yes? So we look here, it's a trinomial, right? Trinomial, we look for PST first. This is a perfect square, but is that a perfect square? No, so it's not PST. So it's not PST, what do we do? X box it. Very good. So now we just pull it aside. Let's do X box of this thing, and what do we put on top? 12, bottom. 7. What times what is a product of 12 and 3 and 4? 3, 4. At this stage, for those who recognize this to be a shortcut, you can. If not, just do a box. Here we go. I'm going to write it into 4 terms. X squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 12, right? I'm using the 2 numbers I just found. Write it back into 4 terms. And here's the box. See it? What do you factor? Go. See what you have. You should know what you have already.
Hold on.
Okay. Sheesh. What do you take out for the first row? Santino.
Hold on, let me think.
Yeah, let them.
X.
Oh, come on. Yeah. Seriously.
A 7, not X.
Yeah. Nice, yeah. You should be an actor. Here we go. What about the second one? 4. Okay, x times what is x squared?
X.
X times what is 3x? 3. So let's check. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Everything's perfect. So, now what? Write it out. So I have x plus 3, x plus 4. Did I miss anything? The 9x. Don't forget, you took out the 9x from before. That better be brought back. And last check to make sure. Is that completely factored? Looks good. Box it. And there you have it. My complete answer. Now, are there any other questions on this? Okay. We're good? Okay. Are there any questions on this? Yes. Yes. No. Okay. So as you can see here, just to show you, for those who recognize this to be a 1, immediately after you got your x, you know you got the answers already, right? You see it? So it's entirely up to you, but you feel confident with the box and just go ahead and keep doing the x box. Okay?